Now we're going to deal with the end of the year. When you say the year ends, what do you actually mean? For some of the people who say the beginning of the year deals with the beginning of their vegetation, when you say the year ends, do you mean it's also the end of the vegetation? This is the important thing for us to understand. It is the ending of a revolution of the elements. That is what ends. The revolution ends. It keeps going around like this. There's a starting point and an ending point. It's the same with your clock, right? It's a circle, but you have a starting point. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 12. When it reaches there, it ends. And then it's going to be the first hour of the night, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, back to 12. And when that ends, guess what? It's going to be the first hour of the day. And it keeps going around. And this is what it's talking about. The ending of a revolution. But if you are not going according to the heavens, then what do you actually mean when you say the end of a year? If it's not the end of a revolution, what is actually ending to say for you to say the year ends? So if you're using March 21st as your new year, what do you use on the 20th of March to say is the ending of the year? The vegetations? What? You see the difference? No, you're no longer relying on a belief, but you're connecting to something more realistic, something that your spirit can relate to. Matter of fact, let's get this in Romans 8, the book of Romans 8 and verse 16. It says, the Spirit, it's capital S, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. When the Spirit of the Word starts to connect with the Spirit inside of us, the consciousness inside of us, because the consciousness inside of us is going to be a mirror to that which is outside. When you start to bridge that connection with His knowledge, that's when you know that you know. That's when your understanding is subdued. You no longer rely on what you think, perceive, or the belief that you hold, or what you have been taught, what culture you were born into. We have to bridge that connection, and the only thing to bridge that connection is His Word and His will. And His will shall be done. So again, as we say, when you're dealing with the end of the year, it's always the end of a revolution. How do you know when it's ending? The sun crosses from the most southern part to go back towards the east. That's the ending. So when the sun reaches back to 0 degrees east, as we discussed earlier, and the new moon that follows that, that's what you use to mark the beginning of the cycle, the beginning of the revolution. So when he said in Exodus chapter 12 and verse 2, it says, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. What is it talking about? It is that month, that moon that follows after the sun changes its course. And again, hence a solar lunar calendrical system. You cannot get this by using the sun only. And you cannot get this by using the moon. He said he created lights, plural, in the firmament. be what? To be of service unto man in the earth. So it means that the earth is not changing. The lights are revolving. Right? We, again, like I said, we cannot be relying on the giants of the earth to determine these things for us when the Most High gave us his word and these people are defying his words. Right? People living in Calgary, Edmonton, and those places, guess what? They can have snow in spring. Does it mean it's no longer spring because they have snow? No. The Most High word is his word. Right? We are in the Caribbean. Guess what? We don't have that climate. We have a rainy season and a dry season. We don't share the same way of reality. People in the desert might be different. The sun travels directly over our heads. We don't watch the sun going around the horizon like this. So at the beginning of the year, the sun is at 0 degrees east. It keeps traveling to go towards the north. So you go into the warmer months of the year, right? And this is where people who are further north, as in Europe and those regions, that's where they get their real warm weather, right? When we are leaving our beginning of spring, that's when they're getting, just like people in Canada, that's when the snow starts melting in those regions. We already long gone get our beginning of spring. But it does not change the fact that the beginning is the beginning because your snow starts melting at this point, or your trees start look, your vegetation start looking this way at this point. Just because your vegetations look like that in March, April, guess what? It doesn't mean that it's the beginning of the year because he never said anything about the beginning of the year dependent on the vegetations. Somebody told you to look what the word Abib means, and then you look at Abib to say, the new year is determined by the vegetations of Abib. No, that's what they did in Egypt. Abraham didn't know about Abib. When Noah was traveling in the boats, he didn't know about Abib. What were the sailors using to navigate? They were not reading weather news to know what's the condition of the weather. They were looking at the heavens, the birds flying high. You know the weather is going to be good. It's a clear sign. So even if they tell you that storm is coming, if you look at the birds and the clouds, you will know. Why do you think fishermen go to sea even when you hear on the news that storm is coming? Weather can change. But then the Most High leave these signs to let you know. How do you know that the rough sea is coming? The water gets extremely hot, warm. You use the clouds so you can tell whether it's coming from the north or the south. That's what nature is there for. It is the evidence of his knowledge, of his word. That's what you look at to see the manifestation of it. But we don't look to nature. We look to book. When somebody says they're researching, they're at the library. How many of us, Yahweh's people, say we're actually researching and we go out in the open field? Just like Abraham goes out in Isaac and those people, they go out in the field to meditate. How many of you people of Yahweh, go out to meditate? No books, just observation of what is. No, because the only research you know is what you do by reading what somebody else wrote. So you can be in their mind. You can take on whatever mindset they left in that book. You need to do real life researches, not be storming down a whole shelf of books that doesn't carry any weight. Go out, explore nature, understand it, observe. That's what he says. Observe nature, observe the ant, observe the bees, how they make their colony, how they deal with this. Observe. The time you spend reading all these books, that's not doing anything for you. The time you spend doing all these things on social media, feeding your mind all types of fruits, forbidden fruits. Go out in the field, spend some time. Observe the motion of the sun. Observe the moon. Observe the phases. How many days that it takes to change. How many days it takes to change. The Sabbath, for example, you'll notice it's always the same phase. From one Sabbath to the next, it's always the same. These are always fixed. Whatever phase you see here, 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 and here, they will always be the same every month. Because every 7th day it changes. So the 6 working days, guess what? You cannot tell what the moon is. Because sometimes after 2 or 3 days, you don't see the moon for another 2 or 3 days. So you see it on your Sabbath, you probably see it the day after your Sabbath, but then you don't see it again till close to your Sabbath. The only one you don't see is the Sabbath for the 15th day. Because what? Not the 15th day for everybody. Depends on when or what you use for your new moon. But the 15th day, guess what happens? The moon is not visible. It goes out from the 14th. So from the 14th to the 15th to the 16th, it's not visible. It resurrects on the 17th. So for people who go by the little white sliver, if you want to know when it's going to appear, it goes out for 3 nights. Right? So the first night it goes out, the second night, the third night, then you will see it on the 4th night. And even if you don't see it because of clouds, it is still there. Observe physically as a research, and you will understand how the elements turn. Shalom.